This is truly the most wonderful time of the year, and I'm not just talking about Christmas. Hi, welcome, come on in. My name is Aoife, and today I am going to blind react to the 2026 prompts for the PopSugar Reading Challenge. I have done this on my channel for the last 5 or so years. Every single year, when the PopSugar Reading Challenge prompts drop, I go straight in front of my camera, having not seen the list before, and we go into it together. Now, I have not seen anything for this list. All that I know is that it's going to be kind of floral themed. There's been a whole lot of botanicals, there's been a lot of florals in any kind of teasers that I have seen. I felt like 2025 was very broad. I felt like there were a lot of categories that would fit into some readers who might have different reading tastes than I, and I felt like there were a lot of categories that you could fit in any kind of which way you wanted. So let's see where 2026 takes us. I'm thinking that there's going to be some things to do with 13 because 13 twos are 26. I'm thinking there might be something to do with the Winter Olympics, which are happening in 2026. I'm kind of wondering if there's going to be a 26th letter of the alphabet one. There has been if you read a book with Y for 2025. I don't know if we're going to be able to find a book that begins with a Z. Let's see where we go. First prompt for 2026 is a book where gardening or a garden is central to the prompt. So many options. I am immediately thinking of The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett, but I'm also thinking of Tom's Midnight Garden by Philippa Pierce. I absolutely loved that book when I was younger, and I think that this is the perfect time to reread it when you're going into this prompt. Ooh, book 2 is a book that features a platonic friendship between a man and a woman. This is big. Now, I read a lot of romance, so I've read a lot of books where there is a romantic relationship between a man and a woman, but this is a really good one because it'll take you further away from that idea. I have a couple of recommendations here that I definitely recommend. I really enjoyed Rewitched by Lucy Jane Wood, which features Bella and Artorias in a kind of a mentor-mentoree relationship. I also highly recommend Aunt Shaw by Una Min Kavanagh. This is a non-fiction story of Una Min, who was adopted from Vietnam and brought to Ireland in the early 1990s, and it's the story of her relationship with her grandfather. This is just such a wonderful relationship, and platonic just means not romantic, so a familiar relationship can be a platonic one. Prompt number 3, a book that you meant to read in 2025. I mean, introducing my entire bookshelf. There are so many books that can fit in here. I think at the moment, one that I will probably fit in for that one is My Friends by Frederick Backman. I don't know if I can fit it in for the rest of my 2025 reading, and it is definitely one that's on my sights for 2026. Prompt number 4, I said it was coming, a book that begins with the letter Z. I knew they would fit in this kind of prompt here. Now, I have little to no ideas. There are probably some of the Animorphs that might have, there is probably a children's book that has Zoe and the, or Zoe meets the, kind of a situation like that. I don't think that you can count the author's name, so I'm not going to recommend anything that's by Zadie Smith. That one, I think I'm going to need a little bit of time to think about that one. Prompt number 5 is a book about women astronauts. Absolutely highly recommend Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid, particularly if you want to have your heart ripped out of your body and then put straight back in. But if you feel like going for a non-fiction book, there are definitely some things that you can check out there. I know that Sally Ride has got a really great autobiography, but if you want to go for an astronaut who might be a little bit less well known, then check out Eileen Collins's Through the Glass Ceiling and To the Stars. I absolutely loved that book, and it's the perfect one to read for this prompt. Number 6, a book with an overweight main character whose story isn't about losing weight. I love this one. I love ones that are very body positive, and I have read a couple of books with really body positive characters. I'm definitely going to shout out the Brown Sister trilogy by Talia Hibbert here. All 3 of the main characters in those books are plus size, and that has never crossed their mind to lose weight in any of those books. They are so unashamedly proud and so unashamedly happy in who they are. This is definitely the one to go for this one. Prompt number 7, a book about a granny hobby. That is definitely up my street. I am, outside of BookTube, a big knitter. So I've read a couple of books that have knitting or crochet or hand embroidery as main characters doing it. I really love Real Men Knit because not only is it about a knitting club, it's actually about a knitting club that is run by men. And that is definitely something that you don't see a lot. Really want to go and pick up. Prompt number 8 is a book about a sexless marriage. I'm sure there are plenty of those, but there are a couple that I have just read. All of those, humorously, are by Frida McFadden. There are some relationships in The Housemaid or The Housemaid's Secret by Frida McFadden where I wouldn't necessarily say having sex is the top of their agenda when it comes to their marital affairs. I think that those are really interesting ones to read in October because they have just that right level of worry and that right level of anticipation that you have throughout the entire book. Prompt number 9, a book about a type C character. I did have to go and look that up, and that is somebody who is reserved and analytical, and I definitely think that Annie from Uncharmed fits into that vein spectacularly. This is a really great one to read in October. It's a little bit witchy, it's a little bit fantastical, it's got a great found family representation in it, and it's just a perfect cozy read for when the days are getting just that little bit darker and cooler. Prompt number 10 is a book about a horse or with a horse on the cover. This is one for the horse girls back in school. Absolutely standing out is Black Beauty by Anna Sewell. But there are so many other different types of horse girl books that you can read. There is The War Horse by Michael Moore-Pugo. I know that Jilly Cooper has got an entire romance series about horse racing or jockeys. I think one of them is called Rivals and one of them is called Riders. There is also The Horse and His Boy by C.S. Lewis, which is part of the Narnia series. There are so many opportunities here for you to explore a little bit. Prompt number 11 is a book with a dad as the primary caregiver. I have just finished up with If It Makes You Happy by Julie Olivia, and the dad in this, Cliff, is the main parent to his two daughters, one who's a teenager and one who's about 6 or 7 when the book takes place. I absolutely loved seeing this because you don't often see a lot where the mother is the one who knows that she shouldn't be a parent and heads off to live her own life, while the dad is the one who stays behind and takes care of the kids. I thought that that was really great at putting it on its head in a situation that you don't see very often in books or in real life. Number 12 is a book with pop or sugar in the title. Now that one is interesting because I haven't really heard of a lot of those. I know that Roald Dahl has got a book about the wonderful life or the wonderful world of Henry Sugar and 6 others. That's definitely one that you can go into if you're more familiar with his children's books. This is a more adult themed book that I think is a really great read. As for pop, you could kind of stretch it out a little bit and go for The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. And if you enjoy it, it's actually the first of a trilogy. So you could go through the entire 3-book series and see if that's one for you. Prompt number 13, a book featuring a character with a hidden past. Love this one. I love ones where you start to slowly discover what a person's background is like, and I definitely recommend The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. When you go into this book, you know already what Millie's past is, but that is something that is not known to the people for whom she is working. And it starts to slowly come out when you get towards the end of this book, and it is a really great thriller. If you haven't read any of Frida McFadden's books before, this is definitely a great one to start with because it's going to be getting an adaptation in 2026 as well. Number 14, a book set in Michigan or written by an author from Michigan. Now, there's a couple that you can go for here. I know that Catherine Applegate, who wrote all of the Animorphs children's series, she is from Michigan. I know that Emily Henry writes a lot of books set in Michigan, as does Abby Jimenez. Those are both romance authors. Elmore Leonard, who is one of the world's greatest crime mystery thriller writers, he is also from Michigan. I know as well that Jeffrey Eugenides, who wrote The Virgin Suicides, was born in Detroit. There are a couple of options that you can go for here. Prompt number 15, a book about new beginnings. I think that this is going to be a great one for like January because you are leaving the old year behind and starting into a new beginning in 2026. Some really good ones are Evie Drake Starts Over, which is about a woman who goes on a kind of a rediscovery journey after the death of her husband. I think Eat, Pray, Love is a really good one to read for new beginnings. I think The Switch by Beth O'Leary is a great one because 2 characters are going through something new for the first time. Something like Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman really brings Eleanor out of her comfort zone, and I think that that is a really interesting story for you to read. Book number 16 is a book that is less than 260 pages. This is a great one when you feel like your reading goals are not where you want them to be, and it'll give you a little bit of a boost in that you have actually finished a book for once. For this one, I think I'm going to go with A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. It's about 180, 190 pages, and I read it every single Christmas Eve, so this feels like the perfect one to fit into. However, if you want something that you can read any other time of the year, then I would recommend One by One by Frida McFadden. This clocks in at 257 pages, and it is kind of a story of a group of friends who go off on a cabin weekend, and one by one, they start to disappear and are killed off. I think it is such an interesting story, and if you can figure out who the murderer is, congratulations, because you have done a lot better than I did. Question 17, a book about your favorite event in the Winter Olympics. I am going to hope that there is a book version of Cool Runnings so that I can read about the bobsleigh. I am not very well versed in the Winter Olympics. I don't live in a country where Winter Olympics is a very prominent experience. So I don't know what kind of events I'm going to look into, but maybe I'll look into something that has skiing. Maybe I can look into something that has bobsleigh. I know that a lot of Christmassy and holiday romances will be set in ski resorts. I think that there is one by Julie Kaplan that is set in a ski lodge at the Northern Lights in Iceland. And this might be a good one for me to go and check out. Prompt number 18, a love story that defies social boundaries. That's interesting because I think that you could go any kind of a way with this. You could go with an interracial relationship, you could go with an interfaith relationship, or you could go really out there and go with a relationship that society would definitely look down on, such as an age gap relationship or a power imbalance in a relationship. This is a really interesting prompt. And I'm interested to see how people are going to do it. I'm going to bring us back to Frida McFadden and to recommend The Teacher here. In this, there is a student and teacher relationship, and also in My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell, there is a student-teacher relationship in that one as well. Both of these are written really, really well, but they do feel really uneasy reading, particularly when you're thinking about what it is that you're actually reading. Prompt number 19, a book about teen angst. I feel like the perfect one to read here is Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret by Judy Blume. This is just screaming straight into my brain when I'm thinking about what I could read for this prompt. It feels like the textbook teen angst book. If you want something though that's a little bit more light and tongue-in-cheek, then I would definitely recommend the Georgia Nicholson Diaries by Louise Renison. I think that Georgia is an absolutely insane character, but she's also somebody that I would love to be friends with, even just for a day so that I can figure out what's going on in her head. Georgia Nicholson has, I think, 10 books in the series, and each one of them goes a little bit more off the wall than the other, but they are wall to wall with teen angst. Prompt number 20, a book with a character who does Pilates or La Grey. I have never done any of the two of those in my entire life, so I'm definitely going to need to look up about what I can find for that. So I've looked it up and I've got 3 recommendations for you. One is a contemporary book called The Pilates Class by Stevie Turner. This is about a group of people who meet up to do a Pilates class every week. There's also a children's book by Clarissa Shepherd called Sage Does Pilates, which is about a young girl who really enjoys doing the exercise. And it might be one for kids who are starting to get into moving their body and learning how their bodies work. And then we've got an erotic novel by Amber Knight called Real Men Do Pilates, Real Women Do Their Instructor. This sounds like it could be just a bit of fun for your evening reading. Prompt number 21 is a book about a bachelorette party. For this, I really recommend In a Dark, Dark Wood by Ruth Ware. This is about a young woman who goes on a bachelorette party to a cabin and things start to go really wrong from there. If you want to keep it in the kind of a thriller vein, then you could go for The Bachelorette Party by Camilla Stern. You could go with The Bachelorette Party by Carissa Ann Lynch. There are so many romance books out there as well that are kind of about a hen party or a bachelorette party that will definitely keep you going through the year. Prompt number 22, a book about a book club. For this, you could go with The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. You could go with The Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society by Marianne Schaefer. There are a couple of romance books that are all focused around book clubs. There are a couple of horror books that are focused around book clubs. Those are 2 that definitely stick out to me right now. Prompt number 23 feels like a freebie. A book that you were hoping would fit into a prompt but doesn't. I feel like there are so many books that I will try and fit in any way possible. So book number 23 just feels like a free space. Go and do what you want with it. Prompt number 24, a book about postpartum. For this, I definitely recommend Watermelon by Marion Keyes. This is about Claire, who has just given birth to her first daughter, and on the exact same day, her husband James tells her that he wants a divorce. So she heads back to Dublin and reconnects with her family and sees them all again. Marion Keyes is one of my favourite authors of all time. This was her debut novel and it was the beginning of the Walsh Sisters series. And it's pretty chunky. I think it's about 500 to 550 pages, so it's definitely one that you can sink your teeth into. Prompt number 25, a book that explores influencer culture. I have a couple of recommendations for these, and all of them are by Irish authors. Filter This and Unfiltered by Sophie White follows a woman who desperately wants to be an influencer, and she's really trying to get on that bandwagon by pretending to be pregnant because she knows that mummy influencers are just gold when it comes to followers and subscribers and sponsorship deals. I also really liked Idol by Louise O'Neill. This is following a well-established influencer who is celebrating reaching 3 million Instagram followers by letting her followers know about a sexual experience she and one of her best friends had when they were younger. But the friend gets in touch with Samantha's agent and lets everyone know that what Samantha has told was what happened. That's not necessarily how Lisa would recollect everything that has been happening. And things that had happened on the night, she wasn't necessarily on board with it. Prompt number 26, a book with a character who navigates infertility. I think that that is a really important thing to highlight in books. I think it's a really important discussion to have because I personally know so many people who have gone through infertility, who have struggled with infertility, and who are still to this day struggling to conceive. So it's definitely conversations that we need to start happening. And we kind of need to start normalizing those conversations. If you're looking for books that deal with it, you can look at The Friend Zone by Abby Jimenez. You can look at The Time Traveler's Wife by Audrey Niffenegger. You could look at All Your Perfects by Colleen Hoover. You could look at The Right Move by Liz Tom Ford. You could look at Inconceivable by Belle Elton. There are so many books out there that will just make you feel like you're not alone. Prompt number 27, a book about a character with curly hair. There are so many romance books where the female main character will very pointedly have curly hair, such as The Right Move by Liz Tom Ford, such as Pucking Around by Emily Rath, such as The Princess Trap by Talia Hibbert, Only When It's Us by Chloe Leese. There are so many romance books out there where the characters very specifically mention that the woman has curly hair. But there are also a lot of children's books out there, such as Claire Bear's Unruly Hair. I think that that's a really sweet children's book that you can go and pick up for this. I know as well that Mallory Pike from the Babysitters Club has got very curly, very unruly hair. So if you can find a Babysitters Club book that is specifically focused around Mallory, that's one that you could go for too. Prompt number 28, a book about debt. Now, you could go down the non-fiction pile and you could look at a book that's going to help you manage your personal finances. But if you want to go for something that is fictional, then you could check out Confessions of a Shopaholic by Sophie Kinsella. This was made into a movie, I think in 2009 or 10 or so, starring Isla Fisher and Hugh Dancy. So if you want to check out the adaptation of it, that is also there for you to check out too. And I think that the Shopaholic series has like 8 or 10 books in it. So if you are really enthralled by Becky Bloomward and her world, definitely go and check it out. Prompt number 29 is a book that takes place during harvesting season. You could definitely go with the Pumpkin Spice Cafe and that Dream Harbor series by Laurie Gilmore. All of those famously take place in the autumn. You could also do If It Makes You Happy by Julie Olivia, which I've already mentioned, and it definitely takes place in the autumn. I think it's September, October, and November of 1996. It's such a great and cozy season. I think that this is a really great cozy book experience type of prompt. So if you can find like a cozy autumnal fantasy or mystery or a romance, this is the prompt to read it for. Prompt number 30 is sadly one that is escaping me. It is a travel ghost story. Now, you could read a horror story that has travel elements into it, but anything that I have Googled has just brought me travel stories gone wrong or like people's horror travel stories. There's definitely going to be something out there, but it's just not something that I can find at the moment. Prompt number 31 is a book that makes you feel FOMO. There are so many books out there that I feel like everybody is talking about. For me, it's probably going to be either The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes or Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. I feel like everybody has been reading the last 2 books in the Hunger Games series recently, but I have not picked up either of them. And I know that everybody is talking about them, everybody has loved them. I need to go and pick them up too. For the prompt number 32 is a book about an underwater civilization. I think if you can read a book about the Disney version of The Little Mermaid, if you can read The Little Mermaid itself by Hans Christian Andersen, if you can find a book that is set in Atlantis, that's the kind of an area that you want to go for. Prompt number 33 is a book about college. This is going to probably be a young adult or a new adult book. I would really recommend Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell, which is about a young girl who goes to college and kind of is a loner at the beginning, but makes a couple of friends and drifts away a little bit from her twin sister and how much she was relying on her. I really enjoyed this one, and I think that it's the perfect book to read for that prompt. Prompt number 34, a book with a trans or non-binary protagonist. Definitely recommend My Best Friend's Honeymoon by Meryl Wilsner. One of the main characters in this one is non-binary. I also really enjoyed Felix Ever After by Case and Callender. The main character here is a trans boy. Also, definitely check out Cemetery Boys by Aidan Thomas. Main character here is also trans. There are so many books out there that you can go and check out. Prompt number 35, a book that makes you want to travel to Italy. There are so many books that you can check out. There is Love and Gelato by Jenna Welch Evans. That is set in Italy. There is definitely a book by Isabel Broom. She writes a lot of fiction that takes place around the world, but I don't remember which one it is that is set in Italy. I'm pretty sure that in Julie Kaplan's Romantic Escape series as well, there's one that is set on the island of Capri, which is also in Italy. On a Night Like This by Lindsay Kelk takes place on a yacht that is harbored off the Italian coast. There's so many fantastic books out there. Prompt number 36, a book about a mob, either fictional or non-fictional. I'm going to go for it. You should read The Godfather by Mario Puzo. You should also read The Sicilian, which is the follow-up to it. For a non-fiction account of working for the FBI, definitely go and check out Donnie Brasco by Joseph D. Pistone. There's a couple of non-fiction books that I think would work in great here, but if you've ever seen The Godfather but never read the source book, this is your year. Prompt number 37, a book about a pop star. You could definitely go with a non-fiction here. You could go with The Woman in Me by Britney Spears. You could go with Over the Influence by JoJo. I've really enjoyed both of those. I know that there are so many singers who have got autobiographies. I definitely recommend Britney's and JoJo's. If you are of that kind of era and if you enjoyed their music, those are the ones to go into. Prompt number 38, a book with any type of fruit on the cover or in the title. So you've got The Grapes of Wrath. You have got Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit. The Villa by Rachel Hawkins, which has got lemons all over the cover. You've once again got Watermelon by Marion Keyes. There are some really great options that you can go for here. Prompt number 39 is a book with a character who runs a marathon. Definitely Gracie Jenkins Runs a Marathon by Penny Mirren. I have got this on my sites for the Run Club book and it just sounds so wonderfully cozy. It's about Gracie, who is 72 years old, and when she's cleaning out her house, she finds an old postcard that kind of spurs her on to go training for a local marathon. Prompt number 40, a book outside your comfort zone. I always find that to be a really great one because it opens your mind and it opens doors to books that you would probably never have discovered otherwise. This prompt was one that I kind of did a couple of years back because I don't read a whole lot of horror. So I read a horror book by a BIPOC author and I actually really enjoyed it. If I had never read that horror book, then I don't think I would have known that I can do that kind of level of horror and just uncertainty. So that was definitely one that opened my mind, and I really hope that this prompt is going to open your mind up too. Those are the basic prompts. On to the 10 advanced prompts for this year. For number 41, a book in a different format than your usual, physical, audio, or ebook. If you're looking to go into an audiobook, I recommend Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. It is a full cast audio. The story is told in the form of an interview for a documentary, and it just works itself in perfectly as an audiobook. Another one that I think works really well as an audiobook is None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. This is more of a thriller book, but it's very atmospheric. And oftentimes when you're in a cafe, you can kind of hear little background cafe noises. And when they are in a library or in a front room, you can hear the fire crackling. I thought that added to the atmosphere of the book perfectly, and it straight up shot up to a 5-star read from me. Prompt number 42, a book inspired by a real song, album, band, or artist. Again, you could kind of go with this one for Daisy Jones and the Six, as kind of inspired by Fleetwood Mac and how they were all pretty much incestuously getting together with one another and then breaking up with one another, and then had that one big moment where everything fell apart. 43 and 44 are two books written by real life partners or spouses. I love the idea of them working together. I do know that Sarah Breen and Emma McGlysa write together, but they are not partners. Neither are the two authors for Christina Lauren. But two authors that I know who are married and write together are Emily Wibberley and Austin Siegmund Brocka. So if you find any of their books, and I think they've got like 4 or 5, and it doesn't necessarily say that those two books have to be written by different author pairings. So you could just read 2 books by Emily Wibberley and Austin Siegmund Brocka, and you can take this prompt off pretty easily. Prompt 45, a book that features birding. You could go with Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens, which is about a young girl who lives in the marshes. You could go with Freedom by Jonathan Franzen, which is about a young ornithologist who's trying to set up a bird sanctuary. You could go with Away with the Penguins by Hazel Pryor, which is about a woman in her 80s and all she has ever wanted to do in life is go to Antarctica and to follow the penguins on their march. Prompt 46, a sapphic comic. You could read Laura Dean Keeps Breaking Up With Me by Mariko Tamaki. You could read Princess Ever After by Kay O'Neill. You could read Mooncakes by Suzanne Walker. These are a couple of really great graphic novels, and I think graphic novels are also great because, like previously, if your reading goals are suffering a little bit, these are very short and very snappy, things that will just boost your numbers a little. Prompt 47, a book told entirely through numbers. 84 Charing Cross Road is the correspondence between a bookshop owner in the UK and another bookshop owner in the US. You have got the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society, which is about letters going back and forth from a journalist to a community on Guernsey. You have got The Appeal by Janice Hallett, which is emails, which are electronic letters. I think that there are some really great ones that you can look at here, but those are the 3 that I would definitely recommend. Prompt number 48 is one for the fantasy people out there. It is a book with a shadow daddy. You're looking at Fourth Wing. You're looking at the ACOTAR series. You're looking at that area of the bookshelf. It's not one that I have a lot of experience with, but this is going to open a lot of doors for me this year. Prompt number 49, a book with a mention of your zodiac sign. I do remember reading a book recently where one of the characters was a triple Scorpio and had made that known. I am a Cancer, so it might be difficult for me to find characters who are canonically Cancer who have that star sign, because a lot of it can be mixed up with Cancer the star sign or Cancer the illness. So it's one that I'm definitely going to have to Google. For people who don't necessarily look into star signs, you can just go for like a passing fleeting mention of it. Final prompt, prompt 50, a book about Afrofuturism. I think this came up a couple of years ago. Some of the recommendations that I saw for it were The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin, Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler, Kindred by Octavia Butler, Cinderella is Dead by Kaelin Byron. There's a couple of ones that you can look for, and I think that this is a really interesting prompt to finish with. There you have it. Those are some recommendations or some thoughts that I have about all 50 of the prompts for the 2026 PopSugar Reading Challenge. Are there any prompts that you're really looking forward to getting your teeth into? Are there any that you think you're going to struggle with a little bit? Hopefully, this video has helped you get some ideas or to make things a little bit clearer. Are you looking forward to taking part in the PopSugar Reading Challenge? Do you do it every year, or is this your first year taking part? If you would love to leave me a comment but you can't think of anything you'd like to say, then just leave me a checkbox emoji, because hopefully by the time we see each other again in 2027, we will have ticked off every single one of these 50 prompts. Don't forget to like and subscribe because I have new videos up every week. Now, get on out of here.